The 9/11 Commission, after that terrible, horrific terrorist attack, wrote, quote, "The most important failure was one of imagination. We do not believe leaders understood the gravity of the threat," unquote. We're here today because we need to understand who saw what and when, who communicated what. Did it work? Did we learn those lessons of tragedies of past? On April 15th, a man in a gyrocopter was able to fly through the highly restricted airspace of the National Capital Region and land on the west lawn of the Capitol. He started off in the north, went over the Lincoln Memorial, right past, into the airspace surrounding the White House, right past the Washington Memorial, and landed on the lawn of the Capitol. Unbelievable. He first told the federal authorities about this. It came on their radar about 2 years ago. And the National Capital Region is unique in that the Department of Defense, Transportation, and Homeland Security, along with the Capitol Police, National Park Police, and the Congressional Sergeant of Arms, all have roles to play in protecting the airspace. As best I can tell, in this region, there are roughly 32 law enforcement agencies that have some form of jurisdiction in the safety and security of the Washington, D.C. area. But it's still unclear who on this panel was ultimately responsible for first identifying this object, entering restricted airspace, and then for responding to it. At this point, ignorance is no longer an excuse when it comes to drones and small aircraft. In January, a drone crash landed on the White House lawn. It's becoming very common throughout the world. After the gyrocopter incident, a drone with radioactive material landed on the Japanese Prime Minister's residence. Dozens of unaccounted drones have flown over the streets of Paris since last October, and a drone crashed in front of the German Chancellor Merkel at a rally in 2013. There have been several instances involving the White House, including helicopters and small aircraft. And this is a pervasive threat. It's been there for a long time. It isn't going anywhere. And when we show this type of vulnerability, I worry that the shine, that it will inevitably be taken down and taken down hard, has gone away. Someone should have identified that this type of threat we aren't prepared to meet or that our enemies would exploit. Our defensive technology must be able to prevent and respond to unconventional and emerging threats. We need to have that creativity to understand that the would-be terrorists and those people who want to see harm to the United States of America will likely be creative. But in this gyrocopter incident, he was loud and clear what he was going to do. In fact, he was live streaming it. And yet nobody seemed to pick that up. News outlets did. They sent staff, they sent reporters down the lawn to watch it. The United States military has researched drones since World War I, and for the last 13 years used them to fight against terrorists. Yet the primary drone detection technology currently used by the FAA, NORAD, the Secret Service, and the Capitol Police is roughly 70 years old. This antiquated technology can't even tell the difference between a bird, a drone, a gyrocopter, or just plain old weather. Even a Mylar balloon sets things off where people are hesitant to do anything because it might just be a good old-fashioned balloon. I understand we will hear today about the Pentagon's effort to improve our capability to identify and intercept small aerial threats. This is the same technology the Customs and Border Patrol has used in the border for years, long periods of time. They've been dealing with this type of gyrocopters and hang gliders and all sorts of these types of small aircraft on the borders for decades. They have been dealing with this for a long time. Did we ever learn any of those lessons? Do we need to bring CBP in here to help protect the Capital Region? They seem to figure it out. The stakes are higher. Interagency intelligence sharing and communications coordination can never, ever fail us. We must make sure all agencies with a role in the national security effectively communicate with each other. So hopefully we'll hear today how the agencies represented here have effectively communicated about threats and their counterparts. Quite frankly, I didn't learn much in your opening statements. That was as bland as we could possibly have been. We're here to address a serious topic. We're not going to just stand here and say, well, it's classified, we can't talk about it, because evidently when you have been talking about it, it hasn't gotten done. I, like other members of Congress and congressional staff and visitors to the Capitol, also have concerns about the communication breakdown and alerting the Capitol community about this incident. The first Capitol-wide alert came at 5:03 p.m., several hours after the incident was over. Well, I look forward to hearing about how the Sergeant of Arms and the Capitol Hill Police have updated their policies to prevent a breakdown like this from ever happening again. It certainly shouldn't have ever happened in the first place. It was very disappointing that 3 of the agencies here, the FAA, the Department of Defense, NORAD, and the Park Police chose not to brief members of Congress last week. Now, I do appreciate Capitol Hill Police, the Sergeant of Arms, and the Secret Service for making themselves available. We had 4 agents, 4 committees, 4 committee chairmen, 4 ranking members ask for your presence to have a behind-the-scenes, closed-door briefing on this topic. And for whatever reason, the FAA, Department of Defense, and the Park Police refused to brief members of Congress. That doesn't give us a whole lot of confidence, folks. And we will yank you up here time and time again until we get answers in the public. We are different than the rest of the world. We are different. We're self-critical. Don't take it so personally. Understand, this is how we make America the greatest country on the face of the planet. We do this in an open and transparent way. But when you won't even talk to members in a closed-door meeting, that's not acceptable. It's a waste of our time. It's a waste of the other people's time. And we need results. Because we had some Yahoo in a gyrocopter land right over there. And it didn't work. And I got these opening statements from you that shed no light other than a timeline and how big a space the Park Police protects. It didn't work. We need candor. I want to, again, thank Director Clancy, Chief Dine, and Mr. Irving for their responsiveness to requests. I can tell you we've had a lot of interactions with the Secret Service that haven't been the most pleasant, but I will thank that agency for being so accessible in their communications, and particularly Mr. Clancy, who's made himself available on the mobile phone and calling us and making sure that he's available here. And I want to publicly thank him for that, even though we have had our differences. We understand that the mission is difficult to fulfill, but you're here today because you've been entrusted to accomplish it. We want to help that. We're in the middle of our appropriation season. We can't ever have this mission fail. So we look forward to hearing more about that. With that, I will now recognize the ranking member, Mr. Cummings, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.